As it is the custom in Dalton, when the board reorganizes, to have the town administrator act as chair pro tem, I'm going to open this meeting on behalf of the Board of the Selectmen today, the 7th of May. It is 6 p.m. I want to announce that the meetings are recorded and televised by the Northern Berkshire Community Television Channel, 1303. Can we all rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business this evening is the board reorganization. I'm going to call for nominations for chair of the Board of Selectmen. Are there any nominations?
I'll nominate Joe Novak.
I'd like to thank you for that, but I'm not interested in it right now. And the reason being is that I would like nothing wrong with you, Mr. Waldo, by any means, but if I was to take the chairmanship, I would really like to have a new town administrator in. And I'd be certainly happy to take it then. And I don't know, I call you Mr. Waldo, is it all right, Ken, to call you Ken?
Please.
Okay, yeah, because I think I'm maybe a year older than you, so thank you very much, but I decline.
Thank you for that nomination. Are there any other nominations for chair?
I will nominate John Duval to continue to serve as chair while we are in this transitional period of time.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations? I will therefore call the nominations closed and ask for a vote. All those in favor of John Duval continue to serve as chair of this board, please signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed?
I'm not opposed, but I'm abstaining.
One abstention. Record 4 positive votes and 1 abstention. And with that, I will turn the meeting back over to our chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ken. I want to first congratulate Jay Mezawar on his election win, and also Joe Novak on his re-election. So,
And may I just say something? I want to thank Jay. You did a hell of a job, and you deserve it. I want to give some kudos to Jerome also. We had a very cordial campaign, and there was no animosity toward one another, and I think that's good for democracy. So congratulations.
Through the chair, I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for your words, Joe. Also want to commend you on a great campaign, and Jerome as well. I'll reiterate your words. It was a great campaign, very cordial, and I'm glad that we had that for this town. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, next would be, as part of the board reorganization, nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Ann Bartlett to serve as vice chair.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion by Christine, a second by Joe. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous decision. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for reorganization. Next is the approval of minutes, and we have 5 sets. I think, Christine, you missed the April 16th meeting?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so what is the board's pleasure on the minutes as listed here?
I make a motion that we approve the March 19th revived minutes.
Waive the reading of the minutes?
I would like to also waive the reading of the March 19th revised minutes.
Okay, we have a motion by Ann. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Christine. Any discussion?
I was just wondering what's revived in it, Ann? In the, that particular,
I think it was some of the names.
Okay, yeah, then that's the one that we.
Yeah, we brought forward and you asked to be changed.
That was the revision for the executive session one. The 19th.
Of March? Okay, sorry.
That's okay, I just want to make sure because that's what was changed in there, the wording for the executive session.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
I have to abstain.
One abstention. 4 in favor.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of minutes for April 8th budget workshop and approve of the minutes.
Motion by Ann, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Christine, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, any abstentions?
Abstention.
4 in favor, 1 abstention.
I make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes of April 10th budget workshop and approval of the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion by Ann, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Christine, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Abstention.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the April 16th regular meeting and approval of minutes.
Motion by Ann, do we have a second?
I will second that.
Second by Joe, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
An abstention.
An abstention.
So we have 3 in favor, 2 abstentions.
I make a motion that we waive the reading of the minutes of April 17th budget workshop and approve the minutes thereof.
Motion by Ann, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Christine, any discussion?
Yeah, I need to abstain because, I wasn't there for the full length of the meeting. I had to attend church.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Can we just have clarification? Member
Yeah.
Novak said he was abstaining, but then voted in favor.
Did you want to abstain
Did you
from?
want to abstain or be in
Well, I
favor?
abstained.
Okay.
If I voted in favor,
You did.
I'm
It's
sorry.
Okay, you wanted
Right.
abstention.
So we got 2
You have that?
abstentions.
Okay.
All right. All right, that's it for the minutes. Public comment. Anyone who would like to address the board with anything that is, with anything? Anyone who would like to address the board, please come up, state your name and your community. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Follow along sheet.
Thank you.
Pull that back.
I'm Steve Dadak, 19 Temple Street, owner of record of 12 Harmony Street. You've seen me here before this meeting. You've seen me in this town hall many years. Been in this town 39 years.
So I could just state something. We're going to have a workshop in early June to have you on the agenda, your issues on the agenda, where we can discuss them and have our acting community development director there also. So we can spend, we can spend the time to review and discuss all of your concerns and what the town has and hasn't done at that time, which could save us some time and go into detail.
That's a nice thought, John, but I'm going to air these publicly here today.
Go ahead. Just give you a heads up.
Okay? Top of the agenda, time is of the essence. My building's failing, and this town is failing. The flood control chute there, as you all know, needs a lot of work. Okay? I've been to this town many, many times. You can count them. Donna Seasons has been silent. She sat right there when I was here last time and was silent on all these questions I've asked.
Okay, I'd rather you don't bring up people's names if they're not here to defend themselves, okay? We can do that on...
She was here last time.
Right, she was...
I'm just stating facts, John.
I know, I want...
Okay?
Keep it clean,
Okay.
yeah. Go ahead.
This is the crux of the problem here. Okay? I've been asking for 25 years since I've owned that property to get some work done on that. You can read this agenda, and I'm going to read it out loud.
Okay.
The Pex Brook and the flood control chute are questions that my current buyer wants answered. Okay? I have a buyer. I've been trying to market this building for over 5 years now. Who did the survey of Pex Brook through 12 Harmony Street? How can I get a copy of that report? I cannot get a copy of that from the CDC. They graciously went through there and looked at and did a survey of my property without my knowledge, at my request, and then did not furnish me any reports on that. That is currently holding me up. Why would the town seek a grant to repair the easterly section of Pex Brook and the westerly section of Pex Brook Dam, and not yet seek a grant to repair the entire section of the flood control chute? That's my question. They have a grant, to my best of my knowledge, they have a grant to fix the easterly side of Pex Brook. And they currently just spent another $50,000 of the town's money and another $80,000 of the Berkshire Regional Planning Authority to study a dam upstream from me, yet they won't help fix this flood control chute where my property is. They also refused to fix the dilapidated building on Harmony Street as well. Okay? How is it that the town has benefited greatly from the generous sewer easement through 12 Harmony Street for almost 100 years ago, and yet not seek to maintain that very easement and infrastructure, all the while seeking grants for the easterly section of this river and the westerly section of the same very brook? Okay? I'm at a loss for words here. How do you neglect me? Not only me, but the building, the property, the town's heritage. That building serviced this community for many years at the L.L. Brown Paper Company warehouse. They're the ones that granted the easement and saved this town lots of money by running the sewer up through the river. And now they're going to let the flood control chute collapse on that very river, and it has destroyed my property value. The building has no value, zero. I've not gotten one reasonable offer on the building, okay? And I'll build up to that. The water pipe burst to my sprinkler system. That is in Harmony Street and the Prospect Street intersection. It is 12 feet deep over there. I can assure you it was not at 12 feet deep when that was installed. It's 12 feet deep because of the flood control chute and the bridge over there. And yet my infrastructure has now been buried so deep that it is way too costly for me to repair. This water main servicing it is in need of repair and is currently buried 12 feet below the intersection of Harmony and Prospect Street. The pipe was not installed at that depth, and I suspect it was a result of the Army Corps of Engineers, flood control chute, and the raising of the roadway and bridge during that time. This has added significant cost burden to the repair of the pipe at such a depth. The Adams Fire District has shifted similar costs onto developers, particularly the Maple Street Extension Road development, when they raised that road because they felt aggrieved and could not service their pipes at those depths. Similarly, I am also aggrieved by the added depth to the road over my water pipes and have received no compensation or help in offsetting these costs. It's an unfairly burdened the property for redevelopment. The water department doesn't want to work with me. I'm sure they have money to help repair this, but they don't want to work. They sent me to the CDC. I've been there for 6 weeks now, and I've gotten no answers, zero, fallen on deaf ears. 12 Harmony Street is the highest assessed property on the street. It is higher than 10 Harmony Street, which has no sprinkler system. It's higher than Tommy Ayotte's building. Both buildings of note are quite a bit larger than mine, okay? And the old stone mill is about the same assessment, okay? I've graciously paid those taxes on that property for 25 years. I'm currently in default. I will be in land court on the 15th. Time is of the essence. If this town is interested in working through these issues and saving this building, now is the time. Not a week from now, John. I was here 3 weeks ago asking about this. You were all here at the board. I've been here for 6 weeks asking for these questions to satisfy my buyer, to keep them at the table, to keep the purchase and sale agreement going and move forward and get the building the proper work it needs. I can't get answers to these simple questions here. And that building, if it falls in your hands, is gonna be the town's burden next, okay? Tommy Ayott's building, the McDermott Graphic Arts building, that burned. No sprinkler system. They're assessed less than me. Look what happened. What did that cost this town? What did it cost the fire department? What did it cost everybody? You just leave these things, you think they're gonna fix themselves, they're not. And I'm been here and you ignore me, and you're welcome to comment and ask questions, but it's just a shame because the whole town has got their priorities all wrong when they can't take care of the businesses you have. And if you have comments other than a workshop, John, I'd be happy to listen. And I'd be happy to answer any of the board's questions regarding this issue.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Steve has been here numerous times, and there's no doubt about that. And one thing that I brought up the last meeting, when you brought up about the dam, we did get money for dam safety because it's pushed by the state of Massachusetts. And the reason is our safety concerns, but a lot of the money's been coming from the environmental parts of Massachusetts for cold water fisheries, very important. And I know it sounds like that's something that's below what you are going through, and I agree with you, but I just want to let you know the reason for that monies. And you gave a great summary of what's been going on, and I'm of the ilk that you should start getting answers whether you like them or not. And
I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm an environmentalist like you, Joe. I'm all for the fish. That dam project is gonna be 10 years. 10 years out. I don't have 10 years. That building doesn't have 10 years. And you're forsaking the safety of the Harmony Street Bridge, okay, which was slated to be repaired many years ago, and they ended up putting a cement top on it because it was inadequate at the time, and that was a big argument here in the town.
Okay, so I have to wrap this up. As I stated, we will have a workshop coming up. We'll invite you, and you'll be on the agenda, and we'll discuss the facts.
These are the facts.
Right, we have, yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you for nothing.
Anyone else who would like to address the board under public comment? All right. Next item on the agenda is licensing, approval of common vic licenses for Rainbow Shack. Ken, you got anything? Anyone here from the Rainbow Shack?
Kyle's here.
Can you please come up to Mike? Oh, yeah.
How we doing, guys? Congratulations, you two, on your new election too as well. Or you were already sitting, right?
yeah, you don't have to butter me up.
I'm not, Jake, that's on you though.
I like ice cream.
All right, what do we got?
Over this? You want to go over this first? Okay, could you give us an idea of your business, and it's new, right?
So Rainbow Shack, business as usual. I went in, I did a total renovation of the place, changed the design, the layout, brought everything up to code. We're still gonna do ice cream. We're hoping to be open all year round. Hours are gonna be different, I think 5 days a week maybe. Down the road, we're looking to do coffee, baked goods. I think they wanna try to introduce baked goods now, but then coffee, and I think that's all. I'm just the landlord. Hopefully, I'm the contractor and landlord. They're gonna run it. So hopefully they're whatever, I mean, I tried to bring them tonight, they're over there actually trying to put the finished touches on it now, so that's the game plan.
All right,
Business as usual, except different owners and a fresh look,
great.
so.
Any questions, discussion from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the common vic license for Rainbow Shack.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll be happy to second that.
Second by Joe. Any further discussion?
Just
Hearing-
wishing you well.
Hey, thank you so
I'm
much.
looking forward to the grand opening.
I'm hoping, I think Saturday, right? I think they're scheduled for Saturday or Sunday this week. And then if we get the permits and everything we need tonight, and then tomorrow the ice cream, whatever we need for that, I'm hoping a soft opening tomorrow. Family and friends and, I'm being recorded. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell this right now, but family and friends, you guys are more than welcome to stop in if we do get doors open tomorrow, so.
A soft opening with soft serve, is that what I'm hearing?
Yep, the machines are working as of last night, so. But.
All right. Anything else?
That
Hearing
was supposed to
none?
be, that Saturday open was supposed to be off the record. Great.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. Good luck.
Awesome. Perfect, thank you so much.
Congrats.
Okay, we have a request. It's up to the board to make a motion to change the agenda to switch the presentation of the 2024 audit report by Adelson and Company with the Visitor Center presentation, which we've been told it's a short presentation. Does the board like to make a motion to make that change or go as is?
I can make the motion to move the visitor center presentation ahead of the audit, if it's a timing
Yeah.
matter.
I think it's time.
Okay.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Joe. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. All right, what do we have here?
So, Carol Christiani, Precinct 5, this is Corey Shern, who's a Valley High School student. So most of you know that we convene what started as an Adams Community Roundtable every month, and that's a group of nonprofits that get together that now is the Adams Cheshire Community Roundtable. So the group is about 19 nonprofits, and we've been meeting monthly for 4 years. So our purpose was initially to open the lines of communication between the groups. We were all doing the best to enhance the health and prosperity and quality of life in Adams, but what was missing was that we weren't doing it together. So all of the events were overlapping, and so we decided that it should be a little more coordinated. So this initiative provides a forum where our nonprofits learn what other nonprofits are doing. We share ideas and work together on projects, programs, grants, and resources. So one of the many efforts that we've come up with is that we engage in is the visitor center, and we have kept the visitor center open for the last 4 years, I'll say, on weekends. So 23 weekends from May until October, it's open. We manage it with volunteers, and Haley came up with an idea, and the idea was to say to all the nonprofits at that roundtable, would you take a weekend? So they're all taking a weekend through the year, and then we fill in gaps with other volunteers. So this year, we also do a rotating art exhibit there, but this year what we're doing is we're having 4 photographs that Eugene's doing. So it'll be the Susan B. Anthony Museum, the Quaker Meeting House, and the Adams Theater, and the Greylock Glen Outdoor Center, and there'll be QR codes so the visitors that come in can find those 4 sites. We thought that was pretty novel, and Eugene's helping us with that, and Pro Adams is funding it. So we have a visitor sign-in book at the front desk, and Pat Ketelotti's been entering all of those for years and years and years, and the data has gone nowhere. So we reached out this year to McCann and Huzik and said, wouldn't it be great for a student to come forward and compile some data? So Corey Sharon stepped up and compiled all the data for us, and we thought it would be important that you saw the visitorship. So Corey's here to present that, and we'll talk about all the other things Corey does after this.
That's wonderful.
Okay.
So, yeah, thank you, Carol. So my name's Corey, and I'm a senior, and I'm here to present some of the data that we've noticed from the visitor center logs. Our goal was to obviously analyze the thousands and thousands and thousands of entries that we had and kind of make sense of them, like understand what they all mean and what their purpose is. So like I said, I think this data started in 2020, so it's going on 5 years of handwritten data that I took from the sheet themselves, which I didn't bring one, but I should have, and I put them onto a Google Sheet where I was then able to sort through them and see where people are from, how many people are coming, what they think of the visitor center, and just of our town in general. I have a sheet on here that shows what the sheet looked like. They're handwritten, so they're hard to read, but I shouldn't say that because my handwriting is terrible. And then I compiled that into a spreadsheet, which was much more easier to understand and to read through and know what the data meant. So getting into the juicy stuff, since 2021, I've spoken correctly, we've had over 2,400 visitors log their visit to the visitor center. And most of those people left positive reviews of the town. And some of them were negative, but those negative ones do help us understand what we can fix and what we want to fix. There's a chart on here that shows the amounts of people that have come each year. And the numbers keep growing. Every year the numbers go up and up and up. So it is getting more popular with our increased tourism. We have more people coming to the town and more people leaving positive feedback. It's important to notice that this is very seasonal. Most people come during the summer, July, August, September, around then. We don't really see a lot of visitors in the winter. We live in New England, so that's understandable. But, we could take that into consideration. Maybe we could increase our tourism during the winter and put less of a focus on the summer, as an idea. So one of the logs that people write down is where they're from, which was very fun to go through. People have come from 22 countries to visit our small town, which is awesome. Just keeping within the states, we've seen 41 states out of the 50, and I wrote that wrong, not 360 towns, 254 towns out of the 351 in Massachusetts have all been accounted for in just our visitor center. And there's a little map there that shows where people are coming from. The farthest visitor we saw was from, I think it's called Canberra, Australia, which is a 23-and-a-half-hour flight. I don't know why anyone would want to be on a plane for 23 hours, but, it's up to them. And that person came last September, and they left a very positive review, highlighting how interesting they thought our town was. So that's awesome. Like I said, we've had visitors from 37 states. We've covered the majority of the United States, including Alaska and Hawaii. The majority of our visitors come from Florida, New York, Vermont, and Arizona, weirdly enough. And town-wise, we have a lot of people from Brooklyn and Naples were the top 2 towns that we saw visitors from. Going on to the controversial stuff, what did people think of our town? Overall, it was very positive. People love our rail trail, the train rides, and the overall very welcoming atmosphere of our town. On the contrary, though, some people, they don't. And I have some quotes here from people who weren't so happy and have some suggestions. People, like I said, they love the rail trail, its environment, how downtown it is in our town specifically, and how it adds a great level of interconnectedness from Adams to the rest of Berkshire County, to the rest of northern Berkshire County. But they suggested that we get some more seating areas along the trail, and they also complained about how it wasn't kept up to, how it wasn't clean enough. Moving on to the railroad, a lot of people loved it. It's a little Adams treat. Not a lot of towns have a railroad like that, so it's very cool to see how people think about that. Obviously, some people aren't a big fan of it. They might think it's a little too expensive or whatnot. Overall, like I said, people, they loved it. And I do have some examples of negative thoughts that people had, which I think is what we want to focus on mainly, unfortunately, because that's how we improve. We look at the negative and we know we can learn how do we improve the negative so that people don't have negative thoughts about our town. Our idea that Carol and I came up with was to create a committee that would look at the visitor center logs from the visitor center, the Glen Center, and wherever else we could put a log like this, maybe in Town Hall, and look through that data, see what people think could change, and analyze it and actually do something about it. We could make that committee up of people from local organizations like you guys, or maybe the Thunderbolt Ski Runners, some more local organizations that would have a great opinion on the town. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that, to see if that's feasible.
All right, discussion from the board.
Corey, thank you very much for the presentation. And it looks like you brought somebody with you, if you wanted to make an introduction, who is sitting next to you.
She's here to take pictures.
I noticed. So I was also going to invite her to come forward and take a picture of you at the podium.
That would be
Okay.
so great.
Yes,
I
so
can
why don't-
introduce myself. My name is Kristen Pallett. I'm the curriculum director for Hoosick Valley Regional School District, and so excited to see one of our students who is a mentor and a role model in our environmental studies pathway make a positive impact, both at our school, within our district, and as part of your town. So I'm here in full support, but also very, very proud of Corey as a representative of Hoosick Valley. I would love to take a
So,
picture.
Kristen, you come up and I'll continue to
Never
ask.
invite me anywhere again.
And I did see school committee member Fred Laura here as well, who is also very proud, taking some photos from the back. And Mr. Laura can also come forward and take some pictures of Corey at the podium if you would like.
Thank you.
And I did want to, Carol, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for taking this on. I know this has been a challenge, but I know it's also, I hate to say it's a passion project for you, but I know that you have been very passionate about it. You stepped up when the state withdrew all of their funding for visitor centers and tourism centers throughout the state, and we didn't have the funding to staff the visitor center. And I do sincerely appreciate everything that you've done for the last several years to get people to open up the building on the weekends at a minimum, and holidays when we can. And I see some visitors, or I'm sorry, some volunteers who are in the room as well. And, you know, my gratitude to them. And, you know, Corey, I think this is a wonderful recommendation for us to keep the conversation going and to continue to learn about how we can, you know, have maybe some better resources for when people are visiting. I know that there are some different groups that sit at the round table that Carol organizes that have done some wayfinding, some brochures, some different like website things to try to make the experience better for our visitors when they come. But it sounds like there's even more things that we can be doing, and I hope that maybe you'll have a seat on this committee to help with those conversations as well.
Yeah.
So I would just like to say that since I met Corey, we have invited him as a student representative on the roundtable. So he's been adding a lot of value, and I think making some really good connections and collaborating with a lot of the nonprofits to get some things done. Corey said to me when I first met him that his goal was to raise $10,000 this year for nonprofits in the community. He's exceeded that goal, and he's raised $25,000. Wow. So thank you, Corey.
Excellent. Thank you. Those were my comments. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely would like to comment. Corey is an outstanding person representing Hoosick Valley High School. I've known Corey for a long time. His Bocce lives next door to me, and he's always involved in something at the school. And the environmental pathway which you're taking now, tell us a little bit about your fish project, just quickly.
Just quickly, so this is a project I started with one of my environmental teachers 3 years ago. We have a river that runs through the school's property, and it's been polluted for the last couple of years. And there's it's a cold water fishery, so there's brook trout that grow in it. But because it's polluted, they're not growing in there naturally anymore. So for 3 years, we've been raising fish in the classroom and releasing them. And now you can fish in that river and actually catch fish. So it's a project that you can see the impact of.
Yeah, and I would just like to continue, I could give you kudos all day, because you're that type of individual. But I think it's awful important that we get students and younger people in this community to participate, because I know I learn a lot from the students when I'm up there. And I just want to say quickly also that I was the manager of the visitor center when it opened for 5 years, and I was very impressed. We kept track of everything too. There might be some information from way back there. We had a map there, and we pinpointed. We did have everyone from every state come there. The last state was South Dakota. And it's certainly, the Asheville to Cook Trail and the Scenic Railroad really tie well together. And it's become something that we need to build on, the outdoors and using nature as an economic tool in this community. I know we've been trying, but I'm just going to stop there because of time. But thank you, Corey, for all you do. You're one outstanding student up there. Look at that smile.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the board?
Through the chair. First off, I just want to take it back a second and thank Carol for all her work with the roundtable. As a participant for the last 4 years on it, it's been very much worthwhile getting all the nonprofits together. It's a lot of work, so I thank you for all your work there. To Corey, you're a rock star, man. Keep it up. It's awesome to see the younger generation stepping up, and I thank you for all the work that you did to put this all together here. I just want to say that, you know, this is just a snapshot of the people that come into town. It's people who have gone to the visitor center and signed the book. So you got to think there's exponential amount of people that have come to this town from all over the place. So I think it's great that we have this feedback now, and it's actually, you know, in front of us, and I think we take it and go forward with it to figure out how we can do better, but also where we are excelling as well. So I thank you for this.
Thank
This is
you.
great.
Yeah, may I just say one quick thing? I like the idea of changing the visitor center. That visitor center down there with the Thunderbolt, the history of that is great, but exhibits need to be changed, because that one has been there for a long time, and I think that's really important. I'm glad to see that's going to be part of it. To rotate, you know, and it's much better for any museum.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just have to add, I have volunteered my time at the Visitor Center downtown. I have done it up at the Glen. You do meet some tremendous people. And I also want to say, it's been a real treat watching you since you used to come in the restaurant.
I remember.
With your bocce.
Yep.
I can't remember what your favorite meal was, but hot
I don't
cheeseburger?
remember. I think so.
I think so. And just to see, you know, how wonderful you have grown and turned out, and I applaud you for everything you do for us.
Thank you.
Do you have plans after you graduate?
I do. I'm attending WPI in Worcester.
WPI? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Possibly after that, come back, run for selectman.
I'd love to.
We could use you.
Yeah, sure. I think we should give him an applause, a round of applause.
Okay, great news. Thank you very much for everyone's hard work. All right, next, we're going to presentation of 2024 audit report by Adelson and Company.
More data.
It's good to see everybody.
Yeah.
I take it everybody has a copy of the audit report? Okay. So there's a couple of reports that we issued. One's the audited financial statements, and the second is the management letter. So we'll start with the financial statements. So if everybody has that document you want to turn into page 3, it's the report that we issued over the statements. The period that we audited was fiscal year ending June 30, 24. So I know that the town has had a change in its management, the town manager and the town accountant. So we're actually auditing the records of the previous town management, okay? There's a lot going on with the independent auditor's report, and yes, oh my gosh, it seems to grow every year by leaps and bounds. So we issue a clean opinion on your fund financial statements, so all of the accounting is accurate. Okay, so we have a good clean opinion on general funds, special revenue funds, trust funds, fiduciary funds, everything that is fine. But at the government-wide statement level, the town is required to report certain liabilities on its balance sheet in accordance with the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. One of those is the net pension liability. Okay? We get that information from the Adams retirement system. There's an actuary calculation that is done by the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission. They do all these calculations, actuary calculations, to determine the unfunded status of the pension system. Okay? GASB then says that we have to gather that information, take the town's proportionate share of that unfunded liability and put that number on the face of your balance sheet. Okay? Now, in order for us to issue a clean opinion that that estimate that is put on your balance sheet is accurate, the Adams retirement system really has to be audited, one, or number two, we would have to go into the pension system and do a tremendous amount of auditing ourselves to be satisfied that the liability that is calculated through the actuary calculation is accurate, okay? Now, we're not pension auditors, so we don't actually go into the pension system and perform all these audit procedures. So because of that, we can't gather enough audit documentation that the Governmental Accounting Standard says that we have to have in order for us to issue a clean opinion about whether that liability number is accurate or not. So, because we can't do that, we have to disclaim an opinion for a scope limitation on that one number, okay? And the liability number, if you turn to page 4 real quick, it's the third paragraph down from the top. The net pension liability that we record on your financial statements is $9.8 million. Okay? Outside of that, clean opinion. All the accounting was fine. We got no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. So the town did a good job with its accounting for fiscal year 2024.
Just going back to that pension, the retirement fund not being audited,
Yeah.
is that does that any risk to us in any way in regards to the numbers? I know we've been working with them stating we need
Yeah.
to do it, they said they're gonna do it, but what's the impact of them not doing that? Well, I know what the general impacts would be, but for you and for the town's financing.
For the town's finances, I had thought years ago when the pronouncement came out and we actually had to report that number in your balance sheet, that maybe the town's bond rating would have gone down. But there was no impact on the bond rating at that point, so that would have been the only negative that I could have seen. It hasn't impacted the town's ability to go after debt or to go after grants. Now, the pension information has always been included inside your financial statements, except it's always been buried inside the notes. But we know, 20, 25 years ago, when the pension systems really started to get in trouble and we found out they were unfunded, the accounting standard setters, the accounting standards setting bodies stepped in and they said, hey, look it, we got to get this stuff out of the notes and we got to put a number onto the face of your balance sheet so that when the town selectmen and the finance committee see it, they can see it right on their face, the face of the financial statement. So it brings it right to light instead of leaving it buried in the notes. But outside of that, I think it's a shame because from the standpoint that you have us come in as the town's auditors, we go through all of this work, you have good, clean accounting, you have a good, clean financial statement, all your accounting records are good, and then we got to disclaim an opinion right on the face of your financial statements. So, but it hasn't stopped the town from moving forward in regards to its finances or anything like that. So hopefully that answers your
It
question,
does.
John.
Thank you.
Okay. There's a lot of information in these financial statements. It grows by leaps and bounds every year. So we're going to bypass some of this stuff. I'm going to kind of hit the highlights. Page 7 goes for quite a few number of pages, okay? It goes from page 7-8, or 7-1 to 7-9. It's the management discussion and analysis. It's required to be included in your financial statements, and you're required to report certain things in it about the current year versus the prior year. What are the status of your major capital projects? What's your budget status? What you did underspend your budget, overspend your budget, and so on and so forth. But we're going to go over all that stuff anyways. So let's bypass the page 7 series and get right to page 8. And it's a statement in that position, okay? Now, before we go into the numbers, we have two bases of accounting that's inside these financial statements. One is the full accrual basis of accounting, so that means if you buy a fixed asset, you have to put it on your balance sheet, depreciate it over the useful life of that asset. If you go out and you borrow money and you have long-term debt, we got to report the full value of what you owe to the bank, regardless of when you have to pay it back. We have our obligation in the net pension system. We also offer benefits to our retirees, other post-employment benefits. We have to have an actuary come in, perform a calculation. They give us an estimated number of what the town's approximate obligation is to those future retirees. We put that number on the face of your balance sheet. So there's a lot of accounting estimates that come into page 8 and 9 that are needed for a full accrual basis of accounting in order to have a complete financial statement, okay? So that's just a little bit of context. Page 10 and 11 is called a modified basis of accounting. So you're looking at near-term inflows and outflows of spendable resources. So you're not going to junk up your balance sheet with these long-term estimated liabilities and fixed assets. If the town is budgeting to buy a fixed asset, it's an expense, just the way that you budget. If you're budgeting to make your payment on your debt, it's an expense as opposed to a reduction of a liability, okay? So that's the two primary differences. And I would say, unfortunately, out of all the out of all the pages that we have here in the financial statements, probably page 10 and 11 are probably the most important, okay? Anyways, back to page 8. Cash and cash equivalents. So that's all the money that we have sitting inside of our cash and savings accounts, almost $7 million, all right? We confirm all the town's bank accounts. We make sure all the bank accounts are reconciled timely. We look at a lot of the revenues, deposits going into those accounts. We test a lot of the expenses for the money going out of the accounts. We didn't notice anything unusual. So all the cash is fairly stated, all of it was confirmed, and everything that ran in and out of it was connected with the operations of the town. Taxes receivable, about $700,000. That's your real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle taxes. And I'll go over a schedule when we get towards the end of the report. It's a very positive comment for the collection of the taxes. Town does a phenomenal job. They do great. So, but we'll go over that, and I'll run some percentages by you. Very good high collection percentage, okay? Tax liens is properties that are kind of in the tax lien process and in the foreclosure process. That number last year was over $800,000. So your tax collector's been really good being busy and making sure that you collect on your old tax receivables that are in the lien process. So very good in regards to that. And then we got this thing called intergovernmental revenues, $1.7 million. The reason that it's so high this year, 1.7 million, is because we've got a lot of construction projects going on with the wastewater treatment facility, the Graylock Glen, okay? We spent a lot of money there. And we spent the money, and a lot of it was being repaid by grants that we were eligible for. And we spent the money by June 30, so we had the right to those receivables, so we record the value of that. So that way there, we don't have to report negative fund balance. But the receivables were fine, they're collected after the end of the year, so everything was good there, okay? Capital assets, $40.5 million. The two major activities in the fixed assets this year here, we did about $9.5 million of additions. The wastewater treatment facility project, the Gray Lot Glen project with the two primary, we also had Chapter 90 work done with our roads and infrastructure and stuff like that. We trace a lot of those invoices. We make sure that they're reported in the right period, recorded properly inside the general ledger against the proper budget line item, and everything was fine. Okay? So $9.5 million worth of additions, a little over $1 million of depreciation expense. Remember, we got depreciation expense because we're at the full accrual basis of accounting here. Okay? Then we got these crazy things here called deferred outflows, and then if you go down below, deferred inflows. And I'm still scratching my head as to what they even mean. But they're connected with these long-term liabilities that we got to put on the books, your net pension and your OPEB liabilities, okay? The net pension liability and the OPEB liabilities, the actuaries come in and they perform these calculations, and these calculations look out many, many, many years into the future to figure out what your promised obligation is to retirees. It's all census-driven, whether you're male, whether you're female, when you're going to die, when you're not going to die, and so on and so forth. The healthcare cost trend rates, it gets into a whole gambit of things. They figure out what your total possible obligation is. It's all an accounting estimate. They discount it all back to today's dollars, and then we drop it on the balance sheet as called the net pension liability and the post-employment benefits liability. Well, there's pieces of that calculation that are connected with the long-term projections that the actuary does. And if the actuary makes like a 1% change in the discount rate that they use from one year to the next, we can have an impact on your income statement, by millions of dollars going one way or the other way, and it can go year after year, up and down and up and down. So you would have an income statement, your net income would change wildly. It really wouldn't make any sense if you were looking at it from a long-term purposes. So what GASB said is we're going to take those long-term pieces connected with that liability, and we're going to temporarily park it on your balance sheet into these categories called deferred outflows and deferred inflows of resources, and then amortize it over a closed number of years. Typically, it's 5 to 7 years going back into the income statement. And that way there, they try and smooth the impact to your net income from one year to the next. Hopefully I explained that clear.
Just a question on the OPEB
Sure.
liability number. We talked about this in past years.
Yeah.
Years ago, they were telling us an extraordinary amount of money we're going to have to somehow find to pay off these in the future, right? So it was like millions of dollars at the time. So I'm wondering, do you have where we stand, or things change that the town won't be liable for that, for large amounts of funding in the future?
Well, the town follows a pay-as-you-go
Yeah,
model, right? So you budget to pay your health insurance for your retirees every year.
right.
The town right now, you've got about $50,000 set aside
Yeah.
inside of a separate account. But the OPEB liability, if I can answer it this way, hopefully answers your question. The OPEB liability is a legitimate obligation. You have to budget for it every year to meet the payout for the health insurance premiums. It would be good if the town had the resources or the available free cash or the surpluses to be able to put money away into a separate reserve so it can build up and then get it into an investment account and hopefully it'll gain traction. But it's not there yet. But it is a legitimate obligation.
So what
of the
we're
town.
doing now is paying yearly, so we're okay, right?
Oh, yeah.
As long as we
Yeah,
continue
you're not in
doing that.
violation of anything.
Right,
Yeah.
and then in the future, we should be still okay as long as we continue that.
That's
paying
correct.
by the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Okay, through the budget, okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to piggyback on that. Now, this is going to catch us sooner or later, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have a full complement of town employees. And in time, when people retire, we're gonna need a bunch of money to be able to pay what we need to pay to them. And if we're just putting like $50,000, that's all we have right now, we're meeting our obligation. But meeting your obligation on paper is different when it comes time when we're gonna have to foot these bills. So, tell me your thought on that. Do you think that,
Well,
just meeting
yeah.
the threshold is what we should be doing?
Well, I'll answer it, hopefully I'll answer it the proper way. You are meeting your obligation.
Right?
And it's part of your tax base. You're raising taxes to make these payments. The $50,000 that you have set aside inside the bank account there is just sitting there. You're not using it or anything. It's just gaining interest income. I guess it's a legitimate obligation of the town. I guess it becomes a town decision about whether or not you want to have the citizens of the town to prepay and put those amounts of money, for future retirement, for future health insurance benefits being paid out.
Well,
I don't know any other way
what
of
I say
really,
is pay now or pay later.
yeah,
And
yeah.
It's gonna end up like that. I know I won't be on board or anything, because this is my swan song, but we have to start doing it. We're telling people
Yeah.
we got a AA minus, bond rating. That doesn't mean much
Yeah.
to people in this community. It sounds good, it's probably good for us, but, people don't understand this kind of stuff. And I wanna be upright and frank.
Yeah.
This is over my head. These kind of reports, they just are. I'm not a economic type person. I'm pretty mellow in my life. I've never had a credit card. I've never had a cell phone, but I've paid my bills.
The ideal way to do it would be just like the pension systems have done it.
Right.
They've forced the towns and the communities to pay into the retirement systems in large contribution amounts. And for the most part, I don't know if the Adams retirement system has done it, I would assume that they would have realized that you're in a funding shortage, probably 20, 30 years ago, and on top of making regular contributions, you're making a catch-up contribution to close that funding gap over a period of number of years.
I guess it's a big catch-up, and I'll just stop there, but
yeah,
I've had a concern about that for quite a long time, because we always cherish our town employees.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time, but will we cherish them when we need it? Will we have the funds to do it?
Right, so as long as we continue to pay, we're okay, but if there's more retirees, people living longer, the costs are gonna be much higher possibly in the future, that's where we could run into an issue, right? Is that what you're saying? Because I'm trying to figure out what's gonna bite us in the future if we continue with the way we're going, we're able to pay it, but if, what can be thrown in that could throw us off?
Yeah, I suppose you wouldn't want to get stuck into a spot where you didn't have capacity to raise taxes or an ability to generate additional revenue to be able to cover such as an increased cost in these benefits going out.
Right. And that's why many communities that have the ability to, and have the funds to do this, they put that away, they put it in whatever market, and then the funds continue to raise, and when they get to that point, they can pull from that money and not the taxpayer to pay for that, right?
For the retiree health insurance piece.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And as far as I know, I think there's only like maybe 2 or 3 towns in the entire state of Massachusetts that even had the resources to even almost fully fund, the OPEB obligation.
And
Yeah.
just not to belabor the
Yeah,
subject, but as far as that goes, now, communities that are keeping up with, of course, our affluent communities have, spending potential all the time, and there are some. But what do most communities do now? I know, like, we're, as far as our retirees, we did a different route. We had stocks and things, and they belly. And now I'm not even sure the correct term what we're in. The gentleman comes, he explains it well. Someone here may know the proper term, what money we've put all of our money in, so we don't all of a sudden stocks tank and we've lost millions of dollars. That happened to us already. So what do communities that have an obligation to pay their retirees, are there any towns that you know of, and I know you've done this for a long time, that are still using stocks as a crutch to try to make money for the town, or a lot of them just felt bad and said, well, we got to do something that's safe. So what's your take on that?
I got a mixture.
Yeah.
Out of the towns that I audit, only one is from South County, has fully funded, just about fully funded their OPEB. And they have their money sitting.
Who that is? I mean, it's...
Town of Stockbridge.
Yeah, okay.
They have their money invested in the stock market. I don't remember exactly what they have it in, but it's a fairly conservative investment portfolio. So they don't have it tied directly into owning like specific stocks where you can take massive losses. They're in investments where, like mutual funds, where you have so much ownership and so much stock that if one goes belly up, the whole system's not going to, take a hit. That's only one. For the rest of the communities that they audit, the ones that have a few $100,000 sitting aside, they do have that inside of investment account. Again, conservative type investment vehicles behind it. They usually put away anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000 a year. And these are against liabilities that are, just along the lines of where you are. They do make they do make a purposeful intent to recognize the obligation and to put a certain amount away every year. And outside of those couple of towns that have conservative investments, the rest of them have it in cash or money market accounts. And I will say this, the towns that do have a lot of their money in the investments have adopted an investment policy which drives what they allow the town treasurer to invest the money in to begin with. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, because we're in Massachusetts, you can only invest your money in certain things anyways as a municipality. So there are safeguards in place to prevent a community from taking massive hits.
We took a massive hit.
Yeah.
I don't know what we didn't have any safeguards, but thank you.
All right, this will be Jay Meseworth's problem down the road, so. All right, continue.
Okay. Yeah, that's only page 8. Okay. Total debt, we have a little over $8 million in total debt. We paid all of our debt obligations. We did issue new debt for the wastewater treatment facility. Everything was fine. Everything was recorded correctly. Ashley did a great job with all the accounting. Okay? So your total assets minus your total liabilities and obligations gets us down to our cumulative net position. Now, I'm at the bottom of page 8 here, and we have to put that net position in certain buckets, right? So we got almost $32 million tied up with equipment, buildings, and vehicles and stuff like that. Then we have money set aside that you can only spend on very specific things. So until you meet that restriction, it's got to stay as restricted net position. Then we got this crazy number here. Unrestricted deficit, it's negative $16.5 million. Well, that number is really deficit because we have the net pension and the OPEB liabilities that aren't fully funded, okay? And when you don't have an asset to offset that liability, we're going to have a negative net position. Now, real quick, let's go over to page 10. Now, remember, this is the full accrual basis of accounting. The net pension and the OPEB liabilities, again, remember, they're all estimates based on actuarial calculations. Now, on page 10 is a modified basis of accounting. So if Ashley was going to print out your balance sheet and your income statement out of the general ledger system, it would mirror pages 10 and 11, okay? And I want you, so all the cash is the same, receivables are all the same, accounts payable, nothing changes there. But if you go down to the fund balance section, right, we have unassigned fund balance in a general fund column. Instead of being negative 16 million, it's a positive $3 million, okay? So when we're not junking up the balance sheet, well, I don't want to say junking up, because liabilities are really true and legitimate. When we're not recording those things, when you're looking at it from a town budget standpoint about whether or not you have positive fund balance, positive free cash, positive stabilization funds to be able to set your budget for the next year and, you know, so on and so forth, we're not in a deficit position. You're in a positive position, okay? Okay, so in that unassigned fund balance is $3 million. Inside that $3 million is about $1.2 million of stabilization funds. And then remember, this is as of June 30, 24. I think your stabilization fund, I checked with Ashley this morning, it's about 808, is that right, 880,000? 883, okay. Page 11, total revenues for the town, $22.5 million. Again, everything was recorded properly, we had no issues. Total expenditures for the town, almost 29 million. All right, the general fund, we had a surplus of about 285,000. The capital projects, you see they're negative, but the reason that they're negative is because, remember, we got the borrowing proceeds in a prior year, we got grants in a prior year, and now we're spending the money, so we've crossed years, all right? So we've had surpluses in the past, and now we're spending the money. So even with spending the money, the capital project fund balance at the end of the year is a positive $388,000. You certainly wouldn't want that number to be negative, and it's not, okay? So it's positive. And then your non-major funds are all your special revenue funds, your grants and all that stuff, and that's positive 2.6 million. Okay. I can go on forever here. I'll kind of move in to the financial statements real quick. Let's turn to page 13 real quick. Now, remember, the town's got fiduciary funds, right? Fiduciary means that we have assets that we're responsible for, or we have a fiduciary responsibility for, okay? That you can't use that money to run the town, they gotta run these very specific things. The retirement system, obviously, the town's got a fiduciary responsibility for those assets, so we report the value of the assets that are in the plan. And remember, it's as of December 31, 23, because the retirement system is on a calendar year, okay? So at that time, the retirement system had about $41.4 million in its care. The library had about $325,000. The money we had set aside for the OPEB trust fund was about $53,000. And everything was fine. We confirmed all those amounts, and everything was reported correctly, okay? Starting on page 15, these are the notes to the financial statements. And they describe all your accounting policies, the rules and regulations, and how we record revenues and expenses and fixed assets. So all of the accounting rules that we followed in the past are exactly the same way that we followed them this year here. So there's no changes. So all of the note disclosures is all stayed the same. So we can kind of move into the financial statements. Let's go to page 25. And this just kind of lays out your fixed assets and, you know, the buildings that we've got over the years, the improvements that we've made, the water and sewer system and road infrastructure. And you can see at the top that construction and process. We added over $9 million to the construction and process to get almost $22 million for the year. And then that $22 million is really money that we've spent on our projects for the Greylock Glen, the center project, the water system up there, the wastewater treatment facility, and then a culvert project, okay? And again, we look at a lot of those invoices, make sure everything was good and fine, and a lot of those costs were eligible to be charged off against grants, and some of it was paid with some borrowing money that we also got. Page 26, at the very top is the town's debt. We have about $8.6 million outstanding in loan obligations. We paid down almost $500,000 in the current year, and we borrowed just under $2.8 million for the wastewater treatment facility bond. Again, we looked at all the bond agreements, we traced the money going out as well as the money coming in, and everything was fine, recorded to the proper fund and used on the proper things, okay? And then, let's keep moving forward here, page 30. We're almost there, we only got to go to page 55, So the OPEB liability, Joe, the town hires an actuary, they perform all these calculations to figure out what our total promised obligation is, $9.5 million. We have $53,000 set aside, which pretty much means $9.5 million in unfunded. So that's where that information comes from. And the important piece is, though, is this, on page 31, not that it makes that big of a difference, but it's a good size, I think. The actuary, it's all an accounting estimate. It's all based on assumptions. So you can see that if the liability that we recorded at June 30, 24 was $9.4 million, if the actuary just used a different discount rate by 1% higher or lower, it would have $1 million swing in that liability. So that's the point out the importance of it, that it's an accounting estimate. But I agree with Joe, it's a legitimate obligation, a significant obligation. Page 34, right in the center of the page, we got like 15 pages in here just on these two liabilities. The center of the page there, the net pension liability, okay? The total pension obligation, just a little over $61 million. They got $41 million set aside, so a $19.7 million unfunded obligation there. All right? The whole calculation is based on payroll, the accounting estimate, and the projection of what they think the investments are going to do into the future, okay? Then we take our proportionate share of it. The town's approximately 50% of the retirement system, so we take 50% of that liability, and that's how we calculate that, our obligation piece of it at $9.8 million. Okay. Okay, and then the last page, well, almost next to the last page, page 37, okay? This used to be included way at the front of the financial statements, but a GASB pronouncement came out. It goes into effect for fiscal '25, but we opted to early adopt it for fiscal '24.
Can I just stop you there?
Sure.
For the people that are listening, or even in the audience, don't understand what GASB is, can you tell them, please?
Sure. Governmental Accounting Standards Board.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Okay, so anyways, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board has said that this really is required supplementary information to be disclosed in the back of the report, so we complied with that standard. This reports your budget, the revenues that you collected against the budget, and the expenses that you spent against the budget. And we know in the state of Massachusetts, minus your snow and ice, you're not allowed to deficit spend. So the expenditures were all positive variances, no negative spending in any of the accounts, okay? So the town stayed inside the confines of its budget. And then I want to go over just one last page here. It's going to be page 45. And this is a good report. It's a schedule of the taxes receivable, so it comes out of the tax collector's office. So you can see here, real estate taxes outstanding at June 30, 24, on the 2024 levy year, we collected out of almost $12.9 million. You can see how much we collected there, and the outstanding amount is $454,000. So collection rate for the town is always been, I look back this morning over the last 5 years, you've always been 96, 97% collection rate by June 30 of every year. That's excellent. And then you can see the year before that, it drops off significantly. So the town does a very good job with the collection of its taxes. Personal property taxes, pretty much 100% collected. Motor vehicles a little different, because of the type that they are. But you're 90%, you've always been high 80s, low 90s, and that's very typical of towns, at least the ones that I audit. So the town does a very good job with this tax collection, so I should be proud of that. Okay, there's other pieces to the audit. I can go on forever. You had a single audit, so we had to actually apply federal auditing standards this year here because you spent federal dollars that were in excess of $750,000. So we had to get in and do very specific compliance testing. We did all of that testing. Everything was perfect, fine, and we were able to report a clean opinion going back to the federal government, okay? If that wasn't enough, I got one more here. We had a couple of management letter comments. And I'll just go over those real quick. These are not findings. They're just recommendations to improve upon a system that you already have, okay? One is, you have a lot of capital asset activity. So I talked with Ken and with Ashley and asked them if they would consider purchasing an actual fixed asset software. And there's a real cheap one. It's like $300 or $400 a year. It's called Asset Keeper. We run the same system. So Ken said he was going to look at that and make a determination as finances allowed. So there was that. Anyways, it's important for us that the town put a system like that in place, so that way there, when we come in, we don't have to scour through all of the expense accounts looking for the fixed assets and determining, okay, is this a capital asset or is that one? The town should make that decision for us and give us the records and say, hey, Dave, these are the capital assets, go ahead and audit them. So that's why that one came about. The second one, we're collecting taxes on behalf of the Adams Fire District, and my recommendation to Kelly was just, when you send the payments back to the fire district, we should try and tell them which levy year we've collected and we're remitting over to them, because it's important to track all that stuff by levy year. So, and she agreed to that, so that was very good. And the last one was with Ashley. Because you do spend federal dollars, we asked her if she could tag all the contracts that are federal funded or pass through federal funds, and if they're passed through federal funds, to give us a schedule letting us know exactly how much she spent off of it, because we have to know that information in order to be able to comply with the federal auditing rules and do the single audit. And she agreed to do that one too. So that was good. I think that's it. I have a handout. I'll leave the handout for you so you can see. Sometimes it's hard when you're looking at a financial statement like this. There's so much information. Is the town moving forward? Is it good, or are we moving backwards? Is it bad? So the town's good. It's healthy. It's so it's very good there. So no issues with that. But the Division of Local Services, they publish all these statistics on their website. And so we go off and we grab very key metrics that I think would point you about whether or not the town is doing better or increasing or decreasing. So I have that information. I'll give it to you. But it shows the flux of the change in your free cash from one year to the next. It gets into your stabilization fund. And it also talks about the balance that you really should consider having inside your stabilization fund against your budget. So they say free cash. Okay, free cash, we got, free cash for 25 was $685,000. Okay, what does that mean? Well, the Division of Local Services, the state says that your free cash should be anywhere between 5% and 15% of your annual budget. All right? For 2024, we were at 5.08%, so we were just above the bottom ring, all right? 2025, according to the metrics here, we were at 3.5%, okay? But you'll see it go up and down. And the next one, which is really good, I'm really happy that the town has done this, is the stabilization fund. You go back 5 years, you had $600,000 in it. At the end of 2024, you had $1.2 million, and then I think we're down about $880,000 now. And they also say that you really should stay within inside of 5% or 15% of your budget. So at 24, you were just under 6% of that target, so you're just over the bottom rung. And then now that we're down, obviously you're down below that $500,000. And then the last comment that I'll make, and this can turn into a lengthy conversation, so hopefully it doesn't. The excess levy capacity that you have, okay? If I go back to 2023, we had excess levy capacity at $786,000. The excess levy capacity for '25 was $129,000, all right? The excess levy capacity, right, is your levy limit and what you actually taxed at, and that's that gap. So that we have a very small margin. So I guess, depending upon the context that you put it in now, you can look at it from a positive standpoint, saying, you know, the town is doing, being very resourceful, maximizing its benefits to run the town. But if you look at it from slightly the opposite angle, you know, with having a minimal excess capacity that you have, it makes it very hard to weather unforeseen expenses. So that's one of the risks that I see financial-wise from the town. Now, the town does have $680,000 in free cash for 25 at this point, and about $883,000 in stabilization funds. So even though you have your excess levy capacity really small, at least you have some reserves built up in your free cash and your stabilization funds. Anyways, I have a handout, I'll give it to you, and it's a trend over 5 years, so you can kind of see the makeup of it, but I suppose that's probably the most important there. I think that's it, John.
Okay,
I
thank
know
you.
that's a lot of information.
All right, questions from the board?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have an ask, are the people that are sitting in the audience gonna have a chance to speak
Sure.
on this?
After we're done.
Okay, yeah.
You can ask a
thank
question.
you. I just wanted to know that. One of my concerns, and I brought this up to you, there was a report in 2017 saying that we should change our audit.
Yeah.
And so here it is 2025, and we still have you, and if I'm not mistaken, you just signed another 3-year contract?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's something we kind of need to look at, because when you're doing this, you're doing it, I believe, with the same magnifying glass and just continuing to look at certain things. And may I ask you, how long did it take your group to complete this audit? How much time did you put in on it?
The audit from start to finish, it comes in just under about 400 hours.
Okay, and now, that's all you don't have to say anymore. And what did we pay for the audit?
The fees, I think, with the single audit, I think it's roughly around 38,000.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing that bothers me is like revolving funds. I know that, you know, they're not included within that. And same with our community development. I mean, there's mazes that people use things for that is a substantial amount of money. And to see where they went and how they were spent, it's difficult. You ask and, you know, it's like you have to be a magician to get the answers or things. So that kind of stuff bothers me. And I know it's Mass General Law that, you know, you go by those parameters. But also, when it comes to Mass General Law, there's some things that can be done to put a check on it.
Sure, yeah.
And number 4, with what they suggest, would be to have those looked at. And so I think that's something that perhaps we should think about, so we're not guessing where the money was gone and how it was spent, because it's a substantial amount of money. And so that's all I have to say, and thank you for what you do.
Sure.
And I honestly is gonna say it to the public, maybe I shouldn't be a selectman, but this is over my head. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
way over my head. So I have to take from what you are saying and cast a vote, and so I'll vote for it. And, but on the other hand, it's to the point where I think that, you know, what are your standards when you hire somebody to work for you? What background do they need?
Well, they're required
Your
to,
auditors.
yeah, they're required to be, hold minimum a bachelor's degree in accounting.
Yeah.
They're required to, some of them go on to get their master's degree before they start with us. If they start with us with a bachelor's, we require that master's, and then we require them to move forward and be licensed in the state of Massachusetts.
Okay,
So,
that's all I have.
yeah, sure.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the board have any comments or questions?
Dave, I know that Adelson Company has had a contract with us for a long time.
Yeah.
You're one of two, I think, firms in Western Massachusetts, both who have a full plate of clients.
Yeah.
And so it seems to me that as part of those new eyes that you have looking at things, you do have a different team that comes in and looks at things from time to time. I see you have a colleague with you who has not been here before to present alongside you. But are you rotating, accountants out and?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not the only partner that's worked this engagement.
Yep.
I mean, I've been connected with the town. I started out as a rookie auditor, and I've worked my way up through the ranks of owner. So I've been with the town for 20 years, but I'm not the only partner that's led the engagement. Over the years, we've had many different field auditors actually conducting the work. Cassandra's been the primary auditor for the town of Williams, for the town of Adams here. I would say for probably, she's managed it for the last 2 years. She's worked on it for approximately the last 4 to 5 years. And usually we try and keep the staff consistent with the towns because they know the finances of the towns, they know what to look for, they know where the pitfalls are, they know, the ins and the outs of the towns. There's a lot that goes into auditing towns. There's a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that you have to retain and keep to do this stuff. And the audit that we do, to your comment about there only being a couple of CPA firms here in Western Massachusetts that do this work, there's only a couple of CPA firms. We're the only one that I know of in Berkshire County that performs single audits, and this town is a single audit, so we got to comply with the federal rules and education requirements and all that stuff, because the federal government says if you do a single audit, they're counted as high risk. And because of that, because of doing these types of audits, we're held to a very high standard to the point where we ourselves have to be audited. So these audits that I conduct here, they are the work that I do to make sure that I'm doing my job right. We are required to contract with a peer reviewer. They come in and they audit my work, and then they report that information to the review board for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in order for me to hold my license. So there's many different levels of eyes over all of the engagements that our firm does, specifically the single audits like this one here. So,
And just a thank you for,
Yeah.
I know over the last several years, you've been able to provide us the management letter and the statements in plenty of time for us to review ahead of a presentation, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that you've been doing that for a number of years, so thanks.
yeah, the transition worked out well. To Joe's comment about rotating auditors, it's a solid point. It's one that I do not disagree with. You're not required by law to rotate auditors, so if you're happy with your current auditor and the fact that they're doing the right job and so on and so forth, there's nothing wrong with retaining our firm to do your audit. But it is a good practice, it is considered a best practice to at least meet with the select board or the finance committee, say, you know, do we gotta go out through the motions? I don't like saying that, because I hold your contract, but it's a best practice, so I acknowledge it,
So in general, the town's in good financial shape.
yes.
And thank you to Kelly Rice, our treasurer, who's done a good job, fantastic job at collections.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
I was just gonna open up to the audience, but if you got something,
But I want to bring that point up about elected or appointed. And if we have a tax collector who's voted in and we're getting that amount of return for property taxes and all the other people that are in our town that are elected, I think they're doing a great job.
Yes. I would agree with that.
okay, anyone from the audience has a question in regards to the audit itself, which is the agenda item? Yes? Please come up to the microphone. Yeah, so the people at home can hear your question. And just state your name for the record.
Hi. So the question is to the auditor.
Mhm.
My name's Catherine Foster, and I'm assuming that in the course of the work you do, you are familiar with tax recap sheets?
Yes.
And have you gone as far as checking the payments that the town of Adams makes to the fire district?
Yes, we have. We see the cash actually leave the town and make its way over to the Adams Fire District, and we do see the deposit on the other side.
And has your audit shown that there's any irregularities with those payments in the sense that where Proposition 2.5 is concerned?
No. Proposition 2.5 would apply
To the town.
to the town's taxes, right? So you have the Adams Fire District, right, is going through their process, whatever, to set their taxes, but the town is actually collecting on its behalf.
So the money that the town is collecting
Yeah.
is called a special assessment, which is outside of Proposition 2.5. So that's what I'm asking about. And the fire district does not
I
complete
don't,
tax recap.
I don't know if it's a special assessment. Because it's.
That's what it's termed. That's what I'm telling you that it's called. And it's treated as though it's outside of Proposition 2.5. So I'm asking you, in the course of your audit, did you discover that, and do you find that irregular? Or if you didn't discover it, if I'm telling you this and if it's accurate, is that irregular?
Well, the taxes that you're collecting on behalf of the fire district are the fire district's taxes. So I don't think it really has anything to do with the Proposition 2.5 in regards to the taxes set by the town.
So
And
then
I don't know if I would.
Then
I
the
don't know if I
fire
would
district
define
should
it.
report that to DLS then?
They do. Yeah.
Where does that show up on DLS? They have no tax recap sheets.
I guess you'd have to talk to the fire district. But they have their own separate board, they're their own separate legal entity. And they have an agreement with the town of Adams, for the town of Adams to collect their taxes on their fees on their behalf.
Do you audit other towns that have fire districts, Dalton, Williamstown, Great Barrington, Housatonic?
Not separate ones. Usually the fire is part of the town itself,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So are you guessing or are you certain when you say that the taxes sent to the fire district should be accounted for by the fire district, not by the town?
That is not a guess.
Okay.
That is a fact. Now, the collection of the taxes here, you have to make sure that you're properly collecting the money, putting it inside the bank account, and turning the proper amount over to the fire district. But the reporting of the collection of the taxes is by the fire district, because it's the fire district's revenues, it's not the town's revenue. So the money that the town is collecting on behalf of the fire district doesn't show up in your financial statements. It's not in your revenues, and it's certainly not in your expenses when you cut the check.
So you're looking at it from the town's point of view.
Correct.
And when you say your revenue, but I'm looking at it from a citizen's point of view.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'm seeing that I'm paying this much tax for the fire district, this much for the town.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm seeing that if those are all added together, that we are violating Proposition 2.5.
I don't.
If this is not,
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't
a
think
question for
the
you.
understanding of the proposition in 2.5 is accurate. That's, but, that's, my advice to you is probably talk with the Adams Fire District Prudential Committee or with the town selectmen. I mean, we're auditors, so we're auditing.
I'm waiting for an answer for them, but I figured this was
okay.
quicker.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't ask you anymore.
I would say, I can't see there being any violation of Proposition 2.5 in how you're answering the question, because in the state of Massachusetts, you can't tax more than 2.5% of the assessed fair values of all the property anyways. So the taxes that are set here are one thing for the town. The fees that are assessed by the fire district would be set by the fees for the amount of revenue.
Oh, so let me clarify, I'm not talking about fees. So the fire district collects water fees. I'm talking about municipal services like fire protection and street lighting.
Yeah, yeah. So, just a little bit of his background here. It wasn't until probably a year or 2 years ago where the fire district was actually required to raise its revenue through the taxing process. It used to be through fees.
Right.
For, they provide the fire protection services and the street lighting services, and they send out the bill, so on and so forth. But everything that the fire district does, because there's a tax setting process in there, I would think it would have to be governed through the state of Massachusetts, especially when you're raising taxes. It's a requirement.
Unless you say it's a special assessment.
And I don't think it's a special assessment, because a special assessment would be something like...
Sidewalks in my neighborhood.
Yeah, or something like that, or they're coming in, they're connecting up sewer systems, and they have an additional fee or an additional assessment.
And I would have a particularized benefit from that, rather than a general benefit that the whole town enjoys.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I see your point, because you're being taxed at the town, and you're being also taxed at the fire district.
All right, I think I've taken you out of your comfort zone.
Well...
Thank you for indulging me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of don't know how to answer the question, I'll be honest with you.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, go ahead. Come on.
I have one more question.
Sure.
I'm not sure that I heard correctly, so I want to clarify. Did you say that the Adams retirement system needs or has its own audit?
They do not have an audit. They're not required by the state of Massachusetts to receive an audit. Okay, so the retirement system is not audited. Now, they do have the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission come in and perform an actuary calculation to determine the net pension liability. But there is no independent audit of the system by an independent CPA firm. And if the system was in fact audited, then they would produce certain schedules that we could obtain to rely on that would allow us to issue a clean opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you did mention something about contributions, employee contributions to, isn't that a regular thing?
Yeah, because the town is required to make contributions into the retirement system that's overseen by PERAC.
And what about employees? Do they have to make contributions?
That's where the money comes from. It's withholdings out of their paychecks.
Okay.
And it's at a certain percentage level based upon their salary level.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Moving on, item C on the new business is consideration of emergency funding, reserve fund transfer to replace several police vehicles. Chief? Hi, Chief, you provided the board with a letter. Did you want to read through that, or you can go over any way you like to? It's up to you.
You have a copy of it? So has everyone on the board read over this? Okay. So I'm just going to speak in what this is reference to, but I'd like to preface this by saying, and I've also got Officer Stant with me tonight, who has been integral in a lot of this that we're speaking of. The two vehicles that is mentioned in here from Clarksburg, that is now a moot point. I'll get into that in just a moment in what happened, but that's no longer on the table and we won't be discussing it. So that just brings me to my need for another new vehicle. When this budget year started, 2 new vehicles was what I needed, and two didn't get to you. So I've got one that is already, I had put into the budget. In that time, I've had a K9 unit that the engine has blown, so that is a dead car. And that car also has 125,000. Yeah, so the engine's going in it, and everything else in that car is 125,000 miles old. So, and that's also a car that is not in rotation. So that is one that is taken home because it's a K9. And then we have another car that was previously meant to be totaled, and it was fixed. And that has been an issue since we got it, and it has only gotten
Behind you, sorry.
worse. So every year that I have been here, I have tried to prepare everyone, Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, that when I walked in, there was a certain state of the police department with equipment, with cars. Speaking of cars specifically, the last time that Adams received or got receipt of a vehicle before I came here was 2016. I have gotten 2 since then. So, and I've made this a point to say it in front of the Finance Committee also, you have this gap in years between the last delivery of a car and when I got here and got one in 23 and got one in 24. Maybe I'm a year ahead, 22, 23. So just like a lot of other things, we have done our very best to put Band-Aids on things, to get by, to pull at the end of the year some money out of certain budget lines. We really stretched this. But this is a public safety issue. I understand the condition of the town financially, but this is also your police department. And I'm coming to you, hopefully for the use of emergency funds to get us at least close to where we need to be. The cars from Clarksburg, really, that was something that we were hoping would work out, because that would have helped us a lot. And last night, and Officer Stant was at their Board of Selectmen meeting, they felt it was more, it was a better bet to take the bid from MCLA because they knew they had the money instead of wait, until tonight to find out what we had. So they sold those two vehicles for $15,000 less to MCLA. So that hurt us and put us back into square one. Because with the new vehicles, if we order them right now, it's 6 months. We have an emergency, we need to put a car in the rotation now. And so now I'm not quite sure, standing in front of you, what our options are. And Kevin has been working all day to try and find some of those options. So right now, what I'm asking, I need a new car. I need a second one. And then I might be coming back to you if we can find something or some fix to put in the rotation immediately. So you have what I wrote. I'm very transparent, but this is the first time I've had to do this, and I think it's necessary.
Could you explain, just one quick thing, the K-9 unit that has a blown engine, you're looking to replace that as a K-9 unit, or?
No. What I would do is, one of the marked units is going to be given to Officer Strizzi. And then a new one, whether it's a used new one or a new one, is going to fill that patrol spot. The K-9 units will not get a new car.
Okay, go ahead.
Chief, did you say that Clarksburg sold those two vehicles for $15,000?
Yes.
And, because your memo had said 45, so they took a $30,000 cut, okay.
15.
The Clarksburg had accepted the proposal from MCLA for a total of $30,000.
Okay.
So they essentially accepted $15,000 less than we were proposed to offer.
Because what we had done, and I've said it in here, and this was just verbally in a proposal, to see if they would split payments, half this fiscal year and half next fiscal year. And that didn't, of course, that was part of the discussion also, and that didn't pass.
And then, so in the warrant that we have in front of us in the capital, that we approved a couple weeks ago, I think, that informed the warrant, we do have one cruiser that's in here. I'm looking at the fleet schedule that we were given as part of the budget, and I'm wondering which of the vehicles that cruiser that's in the budget already would be replacing, because I'm looking at, there's 3 that are listed on this report that are in poor condition and 1 that's in very poor condition. And one is a 2008 Crown Vic, one is a 2015 Ford Explorer, one is a 2016 Ford Explorer, and the one that's in very poor condition is the 2017 Ford Explorer. Which one would be?
There should be a 2013 in there too. That one is the oldest one in the fleet.
There's a 2013 Ford Explorer that's listed in good condition, and a 2013 Ford F-150 that's also listed in good condition.
Oh, that's the animal control.
It's it says, it does say ACO, you're right, for the F-150. So I'm just wondering, like, of the Crown Vic says that that's the Academy car?
And that was decommissioned
Okay.
When Town Administrator Green was here.
Okay.
Because it was rusted out and non-viable.
Okay.
Matter of fact, it had to be, I gave our last recruit, Cole, my car to drive because that one went down.
Okay. So the one in the budget is replacing 15, 16, 17?
The two cars that are in poor, that you mentioned.
Yep.
Those are what the new ones would replace.
Okay.
Am I correct, Kevin?
Yes, the 41 and 42.
Wait, I'm sorry, what was that?
41 and 43.
Did you get a number?
No. Do you want to see this report so you can
Yeah.
better?
I can shed some clarity for you.
Okay, but can I have it back?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
And let me just say while he's looking at this, when Kevin came here, he had some experience with North Adams in doing the very same thing. So when someone has experience doing something and they do it good, why not delegate it to him? So Kevin knows more about the condition of these vehicles. He puts together all the quotes you have there. He puts every piece of it together. So he's very good at what he does. So a lot of times, yes, I will call on him to help me answer it.
Does anyone else have a question as he does his research?
Yeah,
Joe?
either way. So the ask here is for a transfer of funds from the reserve account, which would be managed by the finance committee, correct? And I don't think that it's been touched yet this year.
That's
Is that
correct.
true? Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
I would hope I would know that as former chair, but, so my other question then would be, what do we have in the stabilization account? Because that's where the reserve fund would go at the end of the fiscal year.
It's it was 1.2 million, and then it was reduced by 800,000, I believe, for this year's budget.
It was reduced to 800.
Oh, reduced to 800,000.
Yes. We appropriated $336,000 from last town meeting in this fiscal year.
Right.
Okay.
So it's 862, 867, we're somewhere around there. Yep.
When I checked with Kelly today, it was just what was in the bank account as of April 30th.
Yep.
And so the ask is for $75,000 for the 2025 Chevy Tahoe. That's the one that's on the table here.
Correct. And we will get because now going through this, that's probably a month or two old.
You need it
Yeah.
to.
We'll make sure we get an updated quote,
Okay.
but that's
Okay.
what that quote says. Yes.
Okay. And that quote would be fully fitted?
Yes.
That's that, okay.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at it in a different way. I've asked this many times about your cars idling, and I always get, they have to idle because we use the equipment and, you know, with the lights and all this kind of stuff. Is that correct?
It's not because of the equipment. It's
Okay.
because of especially during winter, you don't see that during the summer. You do during the winter. That's because if you jump in a cold car on an emergency call, crank it, throw it into drive, you could destroy the drivetrain because it's freezing cold.
Okay.
That's why.
And I have a problem with, you know, like down on, let's say, when Specialty Mills is crossing the street, you have two cars there, one, you know, two police vehicles with the lights on and everything.
Right.
So in order for those to be on, the car has to be running, is that correct?
Sometimes, if you don't have it running, eventually it will wear the battery down.
Okay, well, here's what I want to talk about, and I'm looking at it, I'm not a mechanic, but I know a little bit about engines, so just listen to what I have to say and tell me if you agree with it. Idling can lead to unburnt fuel mixing with the engine oil, which makes the oil less effective at lubricating engine parts. The contaminated oil can increase wear on your engine. Prolonged idling can lead to incomplete combustion, which may cause carbon buildup in the engine and affect its longevity. Idling can cause fuel to wash away the oil, which lubricates the motor, causing friction that ages the engine prematurely. Modern engines have fuel consumption regulating sensors, and idling doesn't warm the engine well enough to enable the sensors to respond as the fuel-to-air ratio is too rich. Leaving a car idling for an extended period can cause premature engine wear. The habit of idling results in a lethal process as oil dilution, which starves your engine parts of necessary lubrication. And the state of Massachusetts, the law states, it's Mass General Law, Chapter 90, Section 16A. The law states that a car cannot be idling more than 5 minutes unless it is being serviced or it is being used to deliver or accepted goods where engine assistant power is necessary. So I truly think that idling for a long period of time is not a good thing for a vehicle, and I think most mechanics will tell you that. No?
No,
Okay.
sir.
No,
Okay,
sir.
so I just wanted to let you finish before I addressed you.
Yeah, sure.
Or-
No, I'm done.
I just wanted to give you your time, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that study, who was it, who conducted it?
It's not a study.
Okay,
I go on, and I know about this a little bit, and I go on Google and I asked, is idling a car for long periods of time detrimental to the engine of a car? And everything that I read, it was detrimental. There wasn't one thing that said, no, idling a car for a long period of time.
so when our cars idle out in front of the police department, it doesn't fall under that. They leave it running while they come in for the restroom, even to write a report. That's probably the longest, 30 minutes. Yeah. So on the flip side of that, and if I knew I was going to get this, I would have brought Adam or Tim in. Because the flip side of that is just what I told you from the beginning. You run the risk of everything, all the fluids, all the oil being in the bottom of the oil pan, you jumping in that car, starting it, and throwing it in drive. There's no lubrication, none. And then, that's why I asked you about if this was a study, because I was curious if that study took place in the Northeast.
No, it's not a study, it's overall, and
You
it's
have-
about cold weather, that type of stuff. And another thing too is, you're telling me things that I see, because I walk all the time late at night, and there's two cruisers together, and the car's running. They're talking to one another. They're parked up near the cemetery, sitting there, watching the traffic go by, and the cars are running.
And how long were they sitting there?
Well, I don't know how long they're
You just see them
but
sitting
sure.
there?
Yes, I see them all the time, and I'm not trying to be condescending, but you're telling me something that I see with my eyes that isn't what you're telling me personally.
But I think you're taking what you see with your own eyes and making an exaggeration of it.
Okay?
What are you saying, that my officers can't pull up next to each other and talk to each other?
No,
So let me answer this too, because you mentioned down there when we do details.
Yeah.
That was something I put in place, and I put it in place for officer safety. When I came here, there were officers taking their personal vehicles to details out on these streets with no signage, no lights, no nothing. It is now policy that at least one car is out there with lights so my officers don't get run over. And what's the one complaint that I hear from everyone?
Speeding.
Speeding. I don't deal with potholes. But speeding, traffic, people, I need lights, and I don't want one of my officers to get killed.
Of course.
So why was it brought up, Joe?
You're explaining to me that I'm not caring about the police officers.
But that's why they're running. That's my answer.
Well, that's why they're running, okay. So, they're running, but as they're running, this is taking place, what I just said to you.
And I'm telling you that what you said is an exaggeration of the truth. And I beg you, go to another department. Go to any other department and see if they don't do the same thing.
Yeah, I know that.
We have to.
I know that you're really pushing for your police officers as a chief should do.
Is that a recording? Are you recording a picture?
It's a photograph.
Oh, okay.
I'm in a public place.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
no, you just have to notify if it's recorded.
Yeah, kind of
That's all.
interrupted
Okay.
everything.
So, I'm gonna stop with that, but what you're telling me, with my eyes, I see differently. If a vehicle is down at Specialty Minerals with its lights on all day, and it's idling, then this is taking wear and tear on your engine.
So what would be, okay, so what would be your answer to that, Joe? going back to the way it used to be?
I think what my answer would be is shut off the car and have the police officers outside with like, like they have like flashlights with big cones on them. And,
That's great. Yep.
Okay, I think the points were made.
So,
Thank you, Joe.
can I ask for some clarification? So, Officer Stant, thank you for providing some additional details here. So, if I'm reading this correct, it would be car 47,
Yep, so on.
which is what we are budgeting to replace?
So, just kind of touching off of what Chief Kelly said, so
Yeah.
that's the one that has the engine seized right now, so moving a frontline car to backfill that. And then
Oh,
the
okay.
new unit that we're discussing tonight would then go to a frontline patrol unit.
Okay. Because you've mentioned 47 is dead,
Correct.
46 is very poor, and
That was the
40
one that was wrecked, 46.
and 43 is poor.
Very poor.
I'm gonna change it then to very poor. You just wrote poor, all right.
And then,
And then, you indicated 41 average and 48 average. So what I'm trying to get at is, should we budget it, because I was looking at the years, right? And as the chief mentioned, we were in a pattern of replacing a vehicle year after year. We were doing one at a time so that we wouldn't get into a situation where we were doing 2 or 3 at one time, because that is a huge expense. And it looks like that dropped off probably around 2018, although we have a 21 and a 23 in here. So I think that we just weren't on that every year track.
21, 23 came after I came.
Yes. And so what I'm trying to wrap my head around, if you can go down this path with me a little bit longer, is we do have one cruiser that is in the budget for now to replace what has been indicated as one dead vehicle, 2 very poor, and 2 average cars. And then a request to purchase another one using the reserve fund. And that's $75,000 we're looking
Correct,
at?
yep.
Okay, and the reserve fund has
As it stands now.
175?
Yep.
So that would put 100,000 in stabilization if we were to do that. And then, as we go into fiscal '26 and we start planning for fiscal '27, we need to start looking at another vehicle for fiscal '27
Yeah.
to get back into that cycle, if I'm understanding what you've all said. Okay.
And my last question, it'll be quick. Do you have service records of when your car's oil is changed?
Yes.
Okay,
All that service gets done at the DPW.
right, yeah, I know.
We,
that.
we have even spent money out of our budget lines to give them software to be able to work on our cars instead of sending them out.
Okay.
I'm doing everything that I possibly can to keep that money coming back to our community. If I can, again, find money somewhere or give our DPW software, go in halves on software that now there's very few things that we have to send to Johnson Ford to get fixed. Adam can do it. We still have to find the money in the budget line. You know the story. So, again, I stand up here, and Joe, I know your point. We have had discussions like this before. I get it. But I don't understand where at this point, I have strung these cars along, and I don't think it should be a big surprise at this point I'm coming to ask for cars. And that's, again, not the only things that we have. We have handhelds that are wearing out. We have tasers that are way out of date. But this is our priority. And I want to keep my officers safe. We have had a car die on us going to an emergency situation. I can't have that. No matter what is said, I can't have it.
Okay, I know you're campaigning for your person, any leader does that.
Sure.
A good leader does it. But what was the reason, when you said that engines just kind of shit the bed? What was the reason for it? What was the diagnosis? What did they say happened?
This one had a cracked cylinder.
okay?
Again, when you start getting into cars, now, me and you, like my truck is over 100,000 right now,
Yep.
but it's driven by me, and it's not driven at minimum 12 to 15 hours a day. These are. So 130,000 miles on these cars is different than me and you.
Well, I understand.
So that's where they start failing. And this past year, 3 of the cars, we had to replace the water pump. That's a $600 job because you have to take the engine out or the front end off.
Yeah.
So it's not one thing. It's a myriad of things that can make these cars die on us.
Well, of course there is. I mean, the more you travel with them, of course there is.
Sure.
And I have no problem with that, but when you're talking about, what are we talking about? The heads, the piston head, it cracked there?
Casing in the cylinder. So
Casing
the
in
actual
the-
block of the motor
Yeah.
is gone.
Yeah, well, has a lot to do with wear and tear, and it also has a lot to do with the viscosity of your oil. And how often do you have your oil changed? What's your protocol for number of miles when it's changed?
Just like we're supposed to every 3 months, and he's on top of it.
But then you're just saying to me, Chief, that you're driving 125,000 miles. So
Right.
should it be changed more infrequently?
No, there's no study anywhere. That, matter of fact, it has changed a little bit that some of our cars can go 4 and 5 months without an oil change.
Yeah, because it's synthetic oil.
Right, but no, and no offense, Joe, that doesn't, I mean, we can keep changing the oil, and changing it every 2 months isn't going to extend the life of a patrol vehicle that has 140,000 miles on it. And that's what we've done. That's what we've done to try, and we make sure everything is on time. And anything that needs to be done, DPW works with us, even if we're towards the end of the year. You're not going to tell me anything that I haven't tried to do to keep these things limping along. So,
Okay, that's all I'm gonna say about it.
thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Ann, anything? Okay. So we've been here before a few times, going back to Chief Perro, Chief Tarsa, and now we're back here again, where we always have said we need to purchase 1 new police vehicle every year in the budget, and we'll be okay. And we've veered off of that, and we did so last year again, right? We did not buy a police cruiser, right? So it seems we get ourselves into this problem several times over the last 10 years. Go ahead.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, that's, when you have the stretches, and it's one thing if you skip 1 year, but when you have a significant length of time, the old cars get older, and then you have a new car that you have this huge gap in, dependability.
So the question at hand is, you're requesting $75,000, and the Finance Committee is in control of that budget. So if the board does approve this evening, it would be moved to the Finance Committee, and they would have the final say in regards to the $75,000. So we would just be recommending to the Finance Committee in our vote, if we decide to do that this evening. So what is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the transfer from the reserve fund in the amount of $75,000 for a police cruiser.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll make the second.
Second by Jay. And again, it needs to go to the Finance Committee. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. So, did you?
Aye.
Aye. So we have 4 in favor, 1 abstention. This will move on to the Finance Committee for final decision. All right, thank you, Chief.
Thank you for your time.
Can I ask for a 5-minute recess, or at least I'm going to take a break?
Okay, let's take it, this has been a long meeting. Let's take a 5-minute recess and get back to the agenda. Okay, this meeting is now back in session. Next on the agenda is item D under new business, review and acknowledgement of receipt of open meeting law complaint filed by Patrick Higgins against the Adams Board of Selectmen dated April 8, 2025, and received on April 9, 2025, and referral to Town Council for response. This is based on some minutes. What is the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the open meeting law complaint filed by Patrick Higgins against the Adams Board of Selectmen dated April 8th, 2025, and received on April 9th, 2025, and refer the matter to Town Council for response.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ann. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Any abstentions?
I want to abstain from that.
Okay. One abstention.
Yep.
And four in
I
favor.
wasn't on the board at the time.
Okay. All right, next, we have consideration of annual town meeting citizens warrant article petitions. Haley, can you help us out with this? Thank you.
As I mentioned at your previous meeting, when the warrant was closed, was it April 16th, maybe? That was the deadline for citizens petitions. So we did receive one citizens petition that had the number of signatures that were required. That was the one that I believe should be inside your warrant, to see if the town will vote to require the selectmen, any one or more selectmen per meeting, to hold a monthly series of 60 to 90-minute community forums, blah, 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 blah. That should be within your warrant tonight. So that one met the requirements. We can talk about that later when we get to the warrant. And then Ms. Paula Shanai had sent Mr. Walto and CC'd myself, asking that there be a consideration for 2 warrant articles on the annual town meeting warrant. So, but these did not have the required signatures. They were just sent via email. She did apologize for the timing of the request, but we did not, we received them, but obviously we didn't have the required number of signatures. So the board has, to my knowledge, has never placed a warrant article on the annual town meeting warrant without having the required signatures for the annual town meeting, which would have been 10. We did reach out to our attorneys just to ask, and they have provided an opinion that the request that you provided, I gave them sample requests to have the articles included on the annual town meeting warrant. The requests were not citizens petitions pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 10, which are required to be placed on the warrant. Consequently, in my opinion, the past practices of the town with respect to such requests should be followed. I indicated that no articles requested in that like manner have been included in the warrant. I did do a little research. I went back and looked in my records to see, I think I went back around 11 years or so, just, the past 15 years that I had, and we've never done this before, or the board has never done this before. So that's what our lawyer had, requested me to do, so I did go ahead and do that, and that's the opinion that we received.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So the board has a list of all of the annual articles for the town meeting in June. And we do have that one citizen's petition that did follow the guidelines required. So how do we normally do this? So I just go through each one, and anybody has any issue, or? Trying to remember. Okay, so we have to approve these articles to be, and then the Finance Committee will also review these warrant articles and add their recommendation, I believe, next week. They will be meeting to do that. So this is the first part of the process, to get these to printing and to get these out to our town meeting members, is for us to approve the warrants this evening. Okay? All right, I'll just go through them. Okay, the annual articles, if anybody has any issue, wants to discuss anything, just hold me up. Article 1, to choose all other town offices not previously chosen by ballot. Article 2, to hear the reports of the Board of Selectmen and other town officers and act thereon. Article 3, to hear the reports of any committee and act thereon. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to fix the salary and compensation of all elected offices of the town in accordance with the provisions of Section 108 of Chapter 41 of the general laws as amended, and to see if of said salaries and compensation shall be increased or take any other action in relation thereto.
I'd like to hold that one.
Number 5, the operating omnibus article, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from available funds a sum or sums of money as many as may be necessary to defray the ordinary expenses of the town for the fiscal period beginning July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2026, or take any other action in relation thereto.
I'd like to hold that one as well.
All right, held by Jay, 4 and 5. Warrant Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money to operate the sewer enterprise or to take any other action in relation thereto. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or appropriate from available funds a sum of sums of money as may be necessary for the purchase, rebuilding, and/or installation of certain departmental equipment, for the contracting for certain services, to pay interest and loans maturing during this period, for the repair, reconstruction, and/or construction of streets, roadways, sidewalks, sewers, guardrails, retaining walls, buildings, and/or bridges. I have to get a stronger cheater here. Within the town, further, to authorize the trade-in of any presently owned equipment toward the purchase price thereof, or take any action in relation thereto. 7, Article 8. Article 8 is the capital infrastructure and equipment outlay from free cash. Everything's listed there. Article 9 is the regional school assessment articles. Article 10 is the Northern Berkshire Vocational Regional School District budget request. Article 11, under transfers of special funds, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from available funds a sum of money to be used to lower the tax rate or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of money to be added to the stabilization fund or to take any other action in relation thereto. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or appropriate from available funds a sum of money to provide from extraordinary and/or unforeseen expenditures to be known as a reserve fund account, transfer from which may be made from time to time only by the Finance Committee, or to take any other action in relation thereto. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or appropriate from available funds a sum of money to pay unpaid bills of current or prior fiscal years, or to take any other action in relation thereto. Now we're getting into section annual authorization articles. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to authorize its Board of Selectmen to apply for and receive funds from the Community Development Block Grant Program under the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to authorize its Board of Selectmen to apply for and receive funds from the United States Department of Agriculture on the Community Facilities Grant Program, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to accept certain perpetual care funds that were received during the period of January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024 for the care and maintenance of cemetery lots. Such funds are in the custody of the town treasurer, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to authorize the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, to borrow in the event of a revenue shortfall, to allow the treasurer to borrow via revenue anticipation notes, tax anticipation notes, federal aid anticipation notes, grant anticipation notes, and state aid anticipation notes, in the amount not to exceed the anticipated revenue shortfall, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 19, authorize revolving fund spending limits. To see if the town will vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to establish limitations on expenditures from the revolving funds established in Chapter 90 of the general bylaws entitled Revolving Funds as follows, or take any action in relation thereto. All the revolving funds are listed under Article 19.
Just a correction, it's chapter 50 of the general bylaws, not chapter 90.
Oh, I'm going, okay, Chapter 50, thank you. All right, Article 20, amend compensation plan. And the compensation plan is in the Article 20. Bylaw amendments, there aren't any this time around. Special articles, Economic Development Fund, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from the Economic Development Fund a sum of money to be used for fiscal year 2026 expenses, $80,000 for the payroll expenses of the Executive Director of the Glen Outdoor Center from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, or take any other action in relation thereto. And that's all of the articles for the town meeting that is in June. We do have one citizen's petition, as Haley did mention, that did have the required signatures. And I will read the top paragraph or two. To see if the town vote to require the selectmen, any one or more selectmen per meeting, to hold a series of 60 to 90-minute community forums, beginning with 60 days of the 2025 town meeting, to share updates with and engage residents on the Greylock Glen Outdoor Recreation and Environmental Center, the Greylock Glen project, or take any other action in relation thereto. And this petition does identify all the topics that are requested as part of the citizens petition, all listed under that article. And no one holds that. Okay, so we had two articles that were held. Article 4, this would be Jay Mezzawar, you held this article?
Yeah, I just held it because I have to abstain from voting on it.
Okay.
Conflict of interest.
Is that the same for 5?
That's the same for 5, yep.
Okay. So do we want to have a motion to approve Articles 1 through 3 and 6 through 22, along with 23? Economic
development will be Article 21, the citizens petition will be 22, and transact any other business will be Article 23.
Okay. Through 23, and we'll still hold on 4 and 5. Do I have a motion to approve, to move on to the Finance Committee for the recommendation?
I'll make a motion to approve the Articles 1 through 3 and 6 through 23 to move forward for the annual town meeting.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Okay, second by Ann. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Unanimous decision. All right, we're going to start with Article 4.
Make a motion to approve Article 4.
You should step down from the,
Oh.
the table. No problem. Go, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was waiting for. I'll make a motion to approve Article 4 as written and move it to annual town meeting.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ann. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous decision. And we have one more to go.
Make a motion to approve Article 5, the operating omnibus article, as written and forward it to annual town meeting.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ann, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous, okay, Mr. Musselwhite, you can come back. And one more action, before we take a question, is we did have those 2 citizens petitions that did not meet the requirements of 10 signatures. The board in previous years, as Haley indicated, and through our town council, have not let any of those go through, if they've had any like that. But does the board want to take any action on those 2 other articles that were submitted? Okay? All right, we have a question, yes, ma'am.
Yes, I do. Did I miss it, or did you say something about a Greylock Glen Commission?
Right.
I was expecting that to be on this year's town warrant, as you said.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a workshop open to the public to have our community development director come forward with a plan, suggestion, and to the board of selectmen, which I expect to be the first will be in early June, the first opportunity in early June to discuss the way forward with the commission or whatever it may be. Or foundation, whatever it may be. We'll have a discussion with the public on early June meeting prior to the town meeting. So if there's any other motion wants to go the other way, they'll have time to do, well, they can do that in town floor. But we will have a workshop open to the public.
This is in addition to the usual workshop you have.
Yes, this is an additional workshop for the Board of Selectmen and for the public to discuss it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. All right, so we're good there. I believe we're up to G, appoint interim town administrator as acting director of DPW. We've had some discussion on this. Town council has indicated that we can appoint the town administrator as an acting director of DPW as long as he does not receive any compensation.
Should you choose to nominate me, I will gladly accept without consideration.
And we also discussed in workshops that we're going to need to solve, or going to have to discuss a way forward on this DPW director position. But for now, we'll go with the acting, and then we'll get to that over the next several months. All right, do we have a motion to?
I'll make a motion to appoint interim town administrator as acting director of the DPW.
Motion by Ann, do we have a second?
I will second, but ask Ann to please put Ken Welto's name, not just his title,
All right,
in the
we'll add-
motion.
Okay, Ann, you good with that?
I will make a motion to appoint interim town administrator, I'm sorry, I need his first name again. Ken Walto as acting director of DPW.
All right, motion by Ann, do we have a second?
I will second.
Second by Christine, any further discussion?
Yeah, I have just a question. When do we plan on posting that position?
Well, I think
Do we have money in the, and do we have a position as far as what they need to be, their qualifications and that type of thing?
I believe there is a job description. There is no money in this budget for fiscal year '26 coming up. However, through retirements, possibly through attrition, there may be a way to find the funds for the following fiscal year, but we're going to take this time to determine as a board what type of setup we want to have, and have workshops to do that, and then be ready to make those decisions for the following
So
fiscal year.
this appointment is at least for a year, is that correct?
Right, so the next town administrator will also be appointed, the acting DPW director, and we need to come up with a solution, because we don't have the 75, 80,000, it's just an estimate with benefits in this budget to hire somebody, but we need to find a way, or whatever the board decides going forward. for the following budget.
Well, our charter says we shall have.
Right, and we do, and town council, right, we do, we're getting by doing this.
Okay, so that means that revolving funds, once that's gonna go under Ken's purview?
Yeah, Ken's the DPW director, working with the DPW.
Well, the revolving funds fall under Ken's purview as the interim town administrator, because Mass General Law states that the revolving funds fall under the town administrator's purview.
Yeah, and there's other categories that fall within the town administrator's purview also, isn't there? How many revolving funds were under our past town administrator?
I think that should be a separate agenda item some other time, because this is talking about the acting director of
Okay,
DPW, is just
yeah,
addressing your
okay,
question.
yeah.
But the question for this budget,
So, once, then may I ask, Christine, since you're overseeing, hiring a new town, you're looking into it, where do you stand now?
I believe that was presented to all of you at the last meeting.
Could you reiterate it for me?
I provided an RFQ that, actually, this isn't an agenda item, so I don't
Ken,
want
if you
to.
want to just,
Okay,
It was an agenda item at the last meeting, it's
Right.
not an agenda item now, and I'm just cautious about carrying on, but
but Ken's taking the lead on it.
yep,
okay,
Okay.
fine, yep.
and you can meet with him to discuss.
And there's 10, how many revolving accounts do we have? 10?
There's 10 that were just approved under Article 19 in the warrant.
Okay, thank you.
And how many are administered by our town administrator, even being interim? How many of those are under his purview?
I imagine all of them are, he runs it day to day. All right? All right, next,
Did we actually vote on that, or did we just have a motion and a second?
I think we just had a motion in a second. I was testing you guys.
No, honorable.
Right. All right, so thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. All right. Item H is invitation of American Legion Post 160 to participate in May 26th?
Yes.
26th Memorial Day Parade and request to access Memorial Building for inclement weather.
I'll make a motion that we,
I think it's just an invitation. Or is it the,
You have to, I guess, authorize use of
Use of the building.
oh, okay.
Request,
Yeah.
that we would honor the request by the American Legion to participate in the May 26th Memorial Day Parade and request to access Memorial Building for inclement weather.
Okay, motion by Ann, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, just for information, the Legion does run the Memorial Day Parade. They just ask us to, ask the Board of Selectmen, ask the police department and the fire department to support the parade, but it is run by the American Legion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, unanimous decision. And I believe that takes care of all of new business. And now we're on to announcements. We've had this on for several weeks. Volunteer is needed to serve on the Northern Berkshire Opioid Abatement Fund Advisory Board as an alternate. If interested, contact the Town Administrator's Office. You've had no one contact?
No.
Okay. Second, under announcements, the town has received notice that the Berkshire and Eastern Railroad has commenced a post-emergent herbicide program on or about May 1st, which will conclude on or about October 31st. A copy of this notice will be placed on the town's website. The notice contains information about how to receive detailed information on the yearly operation plan. Anything else? Okay. And I believe that is everything, right? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ann, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.